What is up everyone, Hero276 here, and welcome to today's video and welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be featuring the new Mud Bomb QUAGSIRE paired up with a Pidgeot and a Noctowl. This is one of my more meta teams, but I figured since Mud Bomb QUAGSIRE was new and I was having some fairly good success with the team, that I would feature it. Before we dive into today's video, I just want to give a special shout out to my Spotify page. If you like the music used in this video and other videos, please be sure to check out my Spotify page. You can buy my albums there for just $4.99. If you don't want to buy the albums, you can certainly follow me on the Spotify page so that way you can stay tuned to all of my new releases and uploads. With that being said, let's dive right into today's video. Alright, and in the duration of this video, we will have one set and 3 bonus battles. Hopping into the first match, picking up a lead up against Bastiodon, this is terrific for us. Opponent switches into Clefable, and I don't have a direct response to a Charmer, so I'm at least going to come in with the Pidgeot. Pidgeot here is going to go for the Brave Bird here. Now, one of two things is going to happen here. Either they no-shield it, and we take them out, or, like in this case, they shield it, we're unable to get to another move, but we do limit their farm. I'm going to send back in the QUAGSIRE. QUAGSIRE will shield up the move here. I do need to preserve it, since Noctowl is incredibly weak to Bastiodon in the back, and now I'm just going to go for the Stone Edge. Stone Edge here will kill the Clefable if they decide to let it go through, but they shield it up. This leads me to believe they don't have a good response to the QUAGSIRE in the back, so I'm going to double shield here. QUAGSIRE here will shield up the Meteor Mash. They pivot immediately into Medicham, and now we can bring in Noctowl. This is literally best case scenario for us, because if Clefable farmed us down, yes, they would be without shields, but so would I, and I might not necessarily guarantee the alignment I want, but here this way, Noctowl is aligned here onto this Medicham. Shadow Ball will one-shot. Unfortunately, it does one-shot, which means Bastiodon is going to get in a little bit of farm, a little bit more farm than I would have hoped. I'm going to go now for the Shadow Ball. This chunks at the Bastiodon a bit, push them into a range where 2 Mud Bombs will be enough to KO. Mud Bomb number 1 is coming through. This will do some significant damage to the Bastiodon because it is double super effective, and now I'm going to need another Mud Bomb to KO the Clefable. So, I'm going to tank the move here, farm up to another Mud Bomb, and I barely survived the smackdowns to get there. This is the first Mud Bomb that will take out the Bastiodon, and this second Mud Bomb should be enough to KO the Clefable and give us the win. Hopping into game number 2, picking up a lead up against Medicham. Medicham is weak to my 2 flyers in the back, so I'm going to switch into Pidgeot. Opponent stays in this matchup for a bit and lets me get to a Feather Dance. This will debuff their attack by 2 stages, meaning Ice Punch will not threaten a shield from me. So they pivot into Lantern, and once again, I'm just going to go for the Feather Dance. This will prevent them from fully farming down my Pidgeot, because if I went for Brave Bird, yes, it would have done more damage, but they could have farmed me down fully. So, by throwing the Feather Dance here, this makes it so the Surf does not KO, and they have to throw again, otherwise I would have reached another Feather Dance. So opponent is going to throw the Surf, but their energy is basically depleted at this point. This gives me an opportunity to wait out my switch clock and send in the QUAGSIRE. QUAGSIRE here will take these double debuffed Surfs quite nicely. Opponent knows that, so they're not throwing their energy straight away. I go for the Mud Bomb, that nearly KOs, and from here, I could just commit to a very aggressive Mudshot farm down. Surf number 1 is going to come through, and as you can see, it barely tickles the QUAGSIRE. Opponent comes back in with the Medicham, and they're throwing their energy, so at this point, I'm just going to shield up. They go for a power-up punch, and that's really bad. Now, though, I can come in with Noctowl since they did give up alignment. So, Noctowl here at the very least will be able to sponge a couple moves. Psychic, not enough to KO. I am able to farm down. Opponent will likely be looking for the farm down here with the Lantern. Lantern comes in, but they prevent my farm down by throwing their energy. I'm honestly okay with this. QUAGSIRE here will commit to the Mudshot farm down, and they don't make it to another move. In the back, they have their own QUAGSIRE, and I just don't think that this is doable. I don't think we have enough health or shields to be able to flip this. However, we do have an energy head start, so let's see what we can work with. Mud Bomb here is going to land. They already committed a shield on the first one, and here now we have a third one. So I'm going to go for the Mud Bomb here. Mud Bomb is going to start to get them quite low. I do have a shield, so I am going to use it right here. Mud Bomb will be shielded up on my part. QUAGSIRE barely outpaces me to another Mud Bomb. This will start to get me very low. And it's now going to come down to if I can survive the mud shots and make it to the back-to-back. Luckily, I do survive the mud shots and make it to the back-to-back, but they just reached their next mud bomb. So this is unfortunately game over. I don't get off my second mud bomb, and we lose a very close game. Hopping into game number 3, leading QUAGSIRE into Galarian Stunfisk. This is a very positive lead for us. Opponent is actually staying in this matchup, so they've got to be weak to QUAGSIRE somewhere else in the back. I'm going to go for the Mud Bomb here on the CMP tie. This will not KO, but it will do some very solid damage. Galarian Stunfisk can tank it. And you know what? If they're staying in this matchup, I'm going to shield up here. Opponent full sends the Earthquake, so that's a fine shield on my part. And once again, I'm going to look to go for a Mud Bomb on the CMP tie. Once again, my opponent is staying in here, so they've got to be incredibly weak to QUAGSIRE somewhere in the back, and they're committing a shield. So you know what? I'm going to double shield. I'm now realizing how vital QUAGSIRE is to this game, so I'm going to build up to 2 more Mud Bombs and look to fire off the first one. Since they know I have the back-to-back, it's very likely that they'll be letting this go through, but we have stored energy for later. They have Noctowl in the back, I pivot into Pidgeot, and they send in Azumarill. Azumarill will be hit with the Feather Dance. This will lower their attack by 2 stages and make it so that way if they have Ice Beam, it will not be lethal. Opponent is going to throw a charge move. This is likely the Ice Beam, but as you can see, it's not lethal, and they're not going to be able to farm down either. So now I'm going to go for the Brave Bird here, and this will do some big damage onto the Azumarill. As you can see, it gets it very low, but at this point, we should be fine here. We can let the Pidgeot go down safely, and now we're going to send in the Noctowl to get in some energy for the mirror match. What I really need to do is make sure I can get all shields down on their Noctowl. What's also very good is that looked like a CMP tie, so my Noctowl should win CMP over theirs, meaning they'll be making the shielding decisions for me. And once they commit that shield on that Sky attack, I'm going to immediately send in the QUAGSIRE and look to snipe with the Stone Edge. Opponent loses CMP again, and this Sky attack will force a shield for my opponent. As soon as they land this, I'm going to immediately pivot into QUAGSIRE since I know that we both have the same amount of energy, and now I'm going to go for the Stone Edge. Stone Edge here is going to KO the Noctowl and give us the win. Hopping into game number 4, picking up another great lead, QUAGSIRE into Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen is going to stay in this matchup and look to debuff me with the Poison Fang, so I'm going to overfarm on the energy, and this is so that way they don't catch my Mud Bomb. So, as you're going to see, I'm going to continue to overfarm. They try to catch onto Obstagoon, but I'm able to send in Pidgeot. Pidgeot will let this Night Slash go through. I'm just looking to Brave Bird and dip. Opponent sends the Night Slash, and now it's time to full send the Brave Bird. This will do massive damage onto Obstagoon if they decide to let it go through, which they do. Unfortunately, Pidgeot can't quite farm down, so I'm going to have to commit the shield if I want to preserve alignment, which is what I want to do since I know they have a Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen does come back in, and they get in a nice farm down, but this energy won't be very useful up against my QUAGSIRE. Going to go straight for the Mud Bomb here. Opponent will shield it up, and now I have a second Mud Bomb. This will definitely put some shield pressure on my opponent. Opponent gives up the second shield. At this point, they're just going to go straight Poison Fang. I'm not inclined to shield this whatsoever. It will be resisted. Opponent has Pelipper in the back, so I store the Stone Edge for later and catch the Weather Ball onto Noctowl. I wasn't 100% sure if a Stone Edge would KO, and I wanted to preserve all of my energy on QUAGSIRE for that Nidoqueen, so this is the play I end up making. Shadow Ball is going to come through on the Pelipper. It's going to do some very nice damage here. Opponent cannot farm me down, so they're forced to throw again. This is a move I can let go through. Weather Ball is not going to KO, and they throw again! Pelipper could have farmed down there. This just makes my job even easier. QUAGSIRE will throw the Mud Bomb straight away. This is because Wing Attacks will do more than resisted Poison Jabs. Pelipper goes down. Nidoqueen gets in some farm, but we can survive these Poison Jabs, get to the Mud Bomb, and take them out for the win. Hopping into the final game of this set, leading QUAGSIRE into Pelipper. Now, unlike the other Mud Boys, we actually have a move that can hit Pelipper for super effective damage. However, I still will pivot into Noctowl, as still on the whole, it's not a great matchup for QUAGSIRE. Gonna go for the Sky attack, opponent lets it go through, and we can tank one move from this health range. So I will let it go through. Unfortunately, my opponent does full send the Hurricane, and that hurts. My opponent tries to catch a move onto Medicham, and this is actually really good. Now I can go for the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball does big damage. They do farm me down, but now I can send in Pidgeot. Pidgeot is going to look for the Wing Attack farm down. I will shield up one move as I did not debuff this Medicham, and Pidgeot on its own has some okay bulk, but it's nothing special. Medicham goes down. Pelipper does come back into the fight, so I'm going to throw the Feather Dance. Feather Dance does get shielded, And now I'm going to send in the QUAGSIRE. I'm going to look to overload on energy. Opponent does make the Hurricane. However, Hurricane will not be enough to KO as it is double debuffed. I'm going to go for the Mud Bomb here. Mud Bomb should just about KO from this health range. The opponent shields it up, so now I'm going to look to go for the Stone Edge just to ensure the KO. Stone Edge will definitely KO the Pelipper from this range. Opponent has Bastiodon in the back. QUAGSIRE with energy should be able to dismantle this Bastiodon. Going for the Mud Bomb here. Mud Bomb lands on the Bastiodon. We're able to reach a second Mud Bomb. This should just about KO. If it doesn't, I'm going to actually BM here, sending in the Pidgeot to catch the Stone Edge. This Stone Edge will just about KO, but the opponent undercharges it. This means that Pidgeot gets to Wing Attack down the Rock and Steel type, and we take the win. So in that set, we managed to go 4-1, and now we're just going to claim our rank awards, but don't go anywhere because we have 3 bonus battles for you today, so definitely stay tuned for those. Hopping into the first of 3 bonus battles, leading QUAGSIRE into Alola Ninetales. Very good to see the Alola Ninetales on the lead, as Alola Ninetales does hit my backline for super effective with Weather Balls, so very nice to catch the Ice type. I'm going to bait the Stone Edge here, going for the Mud Bomb bait, and it grabs his shield, and if they shielded, I'm shielding. So QUAGSIRE will shield up the Weather Ball to preserve some HP. I'm going to look to throw one more Mud Shot and then commit to the Stone Edge. If my opponent lets it go through, it will one-shot from this range. Ninetales lets it through. Get out of here. And they bring in Scrafty. With 2 flyers, I pivot into Pidgeot, and there's Talonflame in the back. I decide to go for the Brave Bird here. Either this KOs or it grabs their final shield. Opponent gives up the final shield, but that's okay. They're throwing their energy. I'm just going to let Pidgeot go down, and QUAGSIRE is 2 Mud Shots away from the next Stone Edge, so I bring it in. In comes the Stone Edge. This will one-shot the Talonflame. Get out of here. And in the back is still that Scrafty, so this game should be over. They're going to go for a power-up punch here, and that will raise their attack, but Noctowl still lurks in the back and should be able to reach a Sky Attack before they farm us down. In comes the Sky Attack. Looks like the opponent did surrender the match, so we'll take the win. Hopping into bonus battle number 2, picking up a lead up against Alola Ninetales. This time, this Alola Ninetales is running Powder Snow, so it's even better to catch it on the lead. However, we will be outpaced to the charge moves and lose CMP. QUAGSIRE will let the first Weather Ball go through, as Powder Snow does not do as much damage as Charm does, so I'm not in a risk of being farmed down. Opponent will shield up the Mud Bomb just like last time. I'm trying to get to the Stone Edge, but unfortunately, the Alola Ninetales does outpace me to a second charge move. I will shield it up, go for the Stone Edge. If this lands, this will one-shot the Alola Ninetales, but my opponent actually surrenders both shields, so I'm going to come in with Pidgeot and look to go for an immediate Brave Bird. No shielding here this Weather Ball. We will be able to survive it. Pidgeot will throw the Brave Bird here on the CMP tie. This will take out the Alola Ninetales. It will also leave my opponent with less farm for whatever they come in with. They send in Trevenant, and now I can bring in Noctowl. Their energy that they built up is completely useless, so Noctowl should be able to hardwall this Trevenant, especially with a shield advantage. Opponent is still staying in, going for the Sky Attack here. This will immediately take out the Trevenant, and now it's all coming down to what they have in the back. They have Swampert, so this game should be over because Noctowl here has a shield advantage. They're going to go for a move here. It should be the Hydro Cannon, and I should be able to live it from this health range. Going now for the Shadow Ball. This will do more damage than a Sky Attack. Shadow Ball gets the Swampert into the yellow, and now I catch the Hydro Cannon onto QUAGSIRE, and this should be game over. QUAGSIRE will go down to the Hydro Cannon, but Noctowl should be able to farm up to a Sky Attack. This will KO the Swampert here and give us the win. Hopping into the final battle with this team, picking up a lead up against Excadrill. This is a very good lead, and to make matters even better for me, they're staying in. I will overfarm and not play to the CMP tie in case they try to catch my move. At this point though, I should be able to outpace the 2 Mud Bombs. So Mud Bomb number 1 is going to come through on the Excadrill, and I should be able to get off Mud Bomb number 2 before they reach a second drill run. Opponent lets me get off the Mud Bomb. They have to double shield if they want to preserve the Excadrill, but they decide to let it go down, giving us shield and switch. Opponent has Altaria in the back, so I immediately pivot into Pidgeot. They do make it to a move here. I will shield it up because I do have a shield advantage. Sky Attack forces my shield, and in the back they have Toxapex. Gonna go for the Feather Dance here. Feather Dance will lower my opponent's attack by 2 stages, and it grabs the final shield, so at this point, it should be game over. I can now full send the Brave Bird, and this looked like a CMP tie, so opponent is stuck throwing the Brine, and while it won't KO, it will get us to a point where they can only get 1 poison jab of energy through, and now QUAGSIRE could come in, look for a Mudshot farm down, but my opponent throws the Brine and we catch it onto Noctowl. Noctowl will be able to sponge it no problem. At this point, they bring back in the Altaria, but we have stored energy on both the QUAGSIRE and the Noctowl, going now for the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball puts a dent in the Altaria's health. They have to throw here, but I'm going to shield on the Noctowl. This is to preserve HP if my snipe with QUAGSIRE onto the Toxapex were to fail for some reason, like lag or frame drops. So Sky Attack here will take out the Altaria, and at this point we should be able to outpace the very low health Toxapex to a charge move. Sky Attack will KO from this health range, and it will give us the win. Overall, I thought this team was very fun to use. Mudbomb QUAGSIRE is definitely much improved and a lot more consistent than it used to be. Not having to rely on nuke charge moves and actually having access to a now buffed bait makes this thing spectacular, and I definitely put it up there in the upper echelon of Mud Boys. Even though this team might be a little bit too meta for this channel, I thought I would showcase it anyways because I had a good run with it, and I highly encourage you guys to try it out too. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.